maintains a strong procurement function and increased its visibility at a higher level. So we move on to some of the key challenges by sector, and as you can see, and the case for many professions, there's been the change and way to adapt to new circumstances and ways of working, particularly in procurement, which offers both challenges and opportunities to bring in positive changes. Changing EU procurement regulations are also identified as a key challenge to overcome across all sectors, as Brexit has created new levels of complexity. Keeping on top of changing legislation to limit disruption will be key to navigating the uncertainty that lies ahead. Managing risks in supply chain continue to prove challenging for procurement professionals, and is a particular concern. So on to the top skills from the report for the 2021, and as of last year, soft skills continue to dominate the top 5 skills in demand across all sectors, supplier management being particularly crucial. And at a time when procurement specialists are relied upon more than ever, continuing to manage supplier relationships for effective communication, strong influence and skills, more important to ensure cost-effective and strategically sound procurement solutions. And a slight overview on how salaries have changed. So procurement salaries saw an above-average increase last year, highlighting the increased regard and value placed on procurement professionals and why demand for talent remains high in the wake of challenging business environments. The average salary increase for procurement was at 5% last year, compared to the national average of 4.2%, which again highlights, I suppose, consistently, I think the last 3 or 4 years we've been well above the national average. The average salary for procurement professionals, meanwhile, is just short of £47,500, and being CIPS qualified can actually improve your salary by up to 24% at managerial level. Despite the challenging environment, there has been no decline in salaries, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the coming 6 to 12 months as activity increases. So this is moving on to average salaries by gender, and the gender pay gap extended to all sectors again this year, with the gap most pronounced at advanced professional level, both the private and public sectors. There has been, however, a reduction in the pay gap at advanced professional level in the private sector by 7% compared to 2020. There is a need for organisations to not only address this pay gap, but also to be more transparent around pay grade structures. Only 46% of survey respondents felt their organisation had a transparent pay grade structure in place. In fact, only 23% of firms in the private sector have a transparent pay grade structure. Meanwhile, 85% and 66% representatively of public sector and charity or non-profit organisations are transparent about their internal pay grade structure. What the hiring challenges employers are facing. So skill shortages remain a key challenge for employees, with a lack of sector skills and experience remaining top of the hiring challenge for 61%, which is 3% up from last year's report. This was followed by a lack of technical skills or evidence of formal procurement training, which was up from 38% last year to 52% this year. Providing a competitive salary also remains a significant obstacle to recruiting successfully. So what are the benefits people are looking for? And again, I know Dave has emphasised this already, and Suzanne will go into more detail on this, but the last 12 months has certainly opened up our eyes to new possibilities for work-life balance, including flexible working and the ability to work from home. And I'll now hand over to Suzanne, who will further cover this topic before finishing off with some recommendations.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you. So, yeah, that's kind of the overview of the salary guide, which is really, really in-depth, as it always is. But I think talking more regionally, talking about specialism and talking about procurement, without a doubt, flexible working has unsurprisingly been a really common topic over the last 12 months or so. Many of us moved our employees to work from home literally overnight. I know we certainly did at Hayes. Seems like a long time ago now. I think flexible working was already a prominent trend in procurement, so perhaps it wasn't such a gear change for us. But our findings have shown really how important it is for our specialism. So what we thought it would be really useful to do today as well is talk you through the key findings from our What Workers Want report, which is fresh off the press, based on 13,000 responses. It's the fourth in a series of these reports that we do. The first looked at company culture, the second was candidate journey, particularly to the recruitment process, and the fourth was looking all around digital transformation. So this year, unsurprisingly, we looked at whether our respondents thought that the traditional 9 to 5 would ever return or whether it's been overturned forever. So thinking about it on a longer term basis. So what does the report look at? I'll run through the highlights today, obviously, but as with the salary guide, we'll make both reports available to you. It's a really interesting read when you start digging behind some of the figures. But the headline questions, I suppose, that we asked for the survey was, is the traditional 9 to 5 workday gone forever, or will we just go back to normal in the long term? What solutions are available to companies? What do employees want? And I'll compare this to the sentiment in the procurement profession later on. Whether hybrid or remote working could be the difference when attracting new staff, and equally important, retaining your existing staff. Are companies set up to deal with remote or hybrid working in the long term on a permanent basis? And finally, how challenging will a return to the workplace be for everybody? Some headline figures. So what did our respondees think future working would look like? Well, as you can see here, opinions are pretty evenly split. 1/3 thinking traditional 9 to 5 working will return, 1/3 don't, and 1/3 aren't sure. It is very, very even, but that doesn't tell the whole story. And the report digs further and digs deeper into some of this data. A couple of examples. If you look at the report in more detail, you'll see that a larger proportion of employers, so 43% of employers compared to 32% of employees, don't think we will ever return to a normal 9 to 5 in the workplace. And looking at that on a seniority basis, 40% of manager, director and C-suite level individuals agree with that, compared to just 30% at intermediate, middle level, and about a quarter at entry level. And I kind of wondered, is that reflective of personal desire, or is it a perceived capability, and is it a reflection of some of the challenges and concerns around maintaining that hybrid working on a longer term basis? Okay. Whatever your view of hybrid working, or on an individual or a company basis, no one can dispute that it's set on the agenda for most companies and organisations. So looking here at employer sentiment, nearly half of employers said that hybrid or remote working would be offered to their teams on a permanent basis. So this is on a permanent long-term basis moving forward. We were still at around 32% who didn't think it would be, or who weren't really sure. Furthermore, most employers expect that their workforce will be operating in a mix of in the workplace and remotely from July onwards, depending on what Boris has to say over the coming weeks. So this month we'll expect to see some real changes. Only 3% think they'll be asking staff to work fully remotely within this time period, and less than a quarter think they'll be working full time in the workplace. But what's really interesting is comparing that with what workers want, and there is, as you can see, there is some disparity. The figures that are on your screen now are the general survey across all of our professional specialisms. Around half would prefer to work in a hybrid way, in a mix between the workplace and at home. But around a quarter want to work fully in the workplace. Even further disparity among the procurement and supply chain population, where 41% believe that work-life balance has improved during the pandemic, and only 3% want to return to the workplace full-time compared to 24% the general population. Perhaps this is due to the fact that flexible working was already a prominent trend in procurement prior to the pandemic, and that remote and hybrid working is considered to be more of an expectation than a perk among this population. So one thing that's really clear is that a one-size-fits-all will not work. And it's a really important consideration, as 60% of professionals that we surveyed, and we got 13,000 responses, remember, and it was a similar figure in procurement, actually. It was 61% in procurement. So they would be more likely to move to an organisation that offers hybrid or remote working permanently. So getting that policy in place and promoting this when advertising roles or taking prospective employees through that interview and candidate journey could put you at a real advantage when hiring. So we wanted to try and really come up with key considerations, both based on the survey and also things that clients are talking to us at the moment and asking us to work through with them. We're actually hearing that at the moment, whether this is a short-term, medium plan, or whether it's something that will progress in the long term, we're hearing that 2 to 3 days in the office is the most common approach at the moment. We've done 5 in 10, so we've done 5 days out of a fortnight, a 2 and a 3 day week. But to be honest, we're still working through how that will look in practice. I think we've got to ask whether not offering hybrid working will hinder your ability to hire, and whether a more flexible approach would open up perhaps geography, so you could look at people from a wider geography who wouldn't want to do the commute on a longer term basis or on a 5-day basis. But we've got to ask that question. You've got to ask yourself what your competitors offering, because that would be a huge incentive for people. I do appreciate that this has to go hand in hand with business need, and we're working through that as an organisation as well. So these policies may evolve, and they'll need to evolve really. We won't know what works until we try it in a normal business environment. Normal business environment will come back gradually at different paces for different businesses and different organisation types. Certainly for us, we're back to pre-pandemic levels, as Dave talked about earlier. The recruitment market has never been busier. The challenges are slightly different, but certainly in terms of the availability of jobs and vacancies being registered, we're back there, if not a little bit higher. Also consider communication of any changes that you may make, as it's a real opportunity for consultation and feedback. And there's been so much good work done on employee well-being. Don't lose sight of that over the course of the transition back into work or into a hybrid working policy. Not everyone does feel ready to work in a hybrid way, though, and that was certainly something that came back from our survey. Employees seem more fully confident, according to the survey, but that's still half not feeling fully comfortable, as you can see here, of their ability to work in a hybrid way. And that's a variety of things. It could be pure capability, it could be skills, it could be something as practical as tech in the longer term. So I think a lot of employees are kind of asking themselves that question, and we're hearing that more so from the management population, team leader population, if they are having to continue to manage their team remotely. Think back to the salary guide that Gary talked about, which really highlighted the demand for soft skills, so leadership skills, stakeholder management. They'll become even more vital in a hybrid or virtual working world. I think it's really important to consider what will be important moving forward. A really common theme for us, both internally and with our customers and from the survey, is that supporting and guiding managers through this transitional period is vital. Practical things like reviewing office footprints as well. What will we do when we're in the office together? I mean, for me, it's pretty pointless to physically drive into an office, be sat there, and then be on internal Teams meetings all day long. So it's really important to think about maximising the opportunity for collaboration at those times. Keep well-being really high on the agenda and ensure simple things like tech are in place, although proving quite challenging to us as we're onboarding new starters with the microchip shortage. Maybe some of you guys have suffered from the same challenge there as well, to get the laptops up and running. But I think most importantly, we just need to be brave, and we need to allow policies to evolve. We won't please everybody all of the time, and we've got to try and do the best with these policies. Do the best that we can for the majority of people, and look at exceptional, extenuating service situations just as that, really. So they're the highlights in the What Workers Want survey. In the same way as Gary spoke about the salary survey, it's really kind of an overview and a highlight of the key findings and considerations. Pulling the whole of today's webinar together, we'd like to make some recommendations, and we thought really that there were 3 key areas that came out from a recommendation point of view. Firstly, was to highlight the increased value placed on procurement when hiring. The spotlight thrown on procurement during the past year has highlighted its wider importance and really increased the appreciation of the function, both internally and externally. So perhaps when looking to hire, emphasise the role that the procurement function has played during the pandemic and the value that you're adding to your organisation's bottom line. Prospective employees, the best employees, will want to know that the work that they're doing is valuable, it's visible, and really plays a key part in the wider company strategy. And if you're interviewing or looking for a new job yourself, make sure you highlight the value you've added in your current or previous roles, but also make sure you align that expectation and try and explore the status or value of procurement with your potential new employer. Secondly, tailor your flexible working offering. Our report showed that flexible working is of key importance to procurement professionals, and this was the salary guide, benefits and insight. So not even thinking about the What Workers Want survey, which was focused on that. Whilst the COVID pandemic has resulted in the majority of office-based workforces working remotely in recent months, as we emerge from this crisis and begin to transition into a new era of working practices, the very best organisations will still make this a possibility, and as we mentioned previously, doing so may cause top talent to decide to work for your organisation over a competitor, or stay with you over a competitor, or moving to a competitor. And providing that increased flexibility could open up roles to a more diverse group of applicants. So if you're looking for a job yourself, evaluate what's important to you, and is there a match between you and your prospective employer's approach or policy? Don't make assumptions, ask those questions. And then finally, reevaluate your training and development. So while technical skills are obviously still really important for a procurement professional to be able to do their job well, these skills can be easier to teach than soft skills. So things like good communication, supplier relationship management, which have proven to be crucial in recent months amid supply chain challenges and ongoing remote working, but equally difficult to find as the survey showed. And in your existing team, consider what training options your organisation can provide to help professionals to continue to develop their soft skill set. Personally, consider how you can upskill. So they're pretty much the key recommendations from the report. Both of these reports are fully available online. If you've got any particular challenges, either personally or within your organisation, that you want to discuss in more detail with us, we're really happy to do that on a one-to-one basis. If you want to talk to us or your usual Hayes consultants, we can get a download of either or both of the reports to you. Or if you want to let CIPS know, we'll make sure that we liaise with CIPS to your branch to facilitate the availability of those reports for you. So that's pretty much an overview of the salary guide, the key things that we've found. I'm going to stop sharing the screen in a second. Please feel free if you've got any questions. If you want to be brave and turn off your camera, turn on your camera and take yourself off mute to ask those questions, you can. Or if you prefer to put those in the chat box, then again, please feel free to do that, and Dave and Gary and myself will do our best to answer those questions for you. But equally, if you prefer to do that on a one-to-one basis outside of this webinar, again, we'd be delighted to help you with that. So I'll just give you a few minutes to, if you wanted to put anything into the chat.
Hi, I've got a question.
Hello, Claire, thank you.
Hi. Yeah, we've been talking quite a bit about the hybrid approach, but someone mentioned that you suddenly